I stood silently in front of the white church, the one where my daughter was getting married. The wedding bells had just rung. Everyone walked inside with radiant smiles. And me. I stood far away, clutching an old, worn-out purse. Inside it was a photo, just me and her, from her 8th birthday. Back then, she used to call me, "Mommy, you're my superhero." But today, my name wasn't even on the guest list. I am her biological mother. The one who raised her alone from the day she was born. The one who skipped meals just to buy her decent shoes for her first day of school. And yet today, on the biggest day of her life, I was just an outsider. Emily, my only daughter, chose to live with her father when she was 15. He had suddenly returned, moving in with his new wife. I didn't fight it. I had no right to, not in the court's eyes. I was just the birth mother. No house in my name, no savings account. Just a blue-collar worker with nothing but love to offer. I still remember that day. She walked away, dragging her little pink suitcase across the damp concrete. I stood at the door and called out, "If you ever need anything, just call Mom, okay?" She didn't look back. I told myself she was just upset. But I was wrong. 10 years passed. Awkward texts turned into silence. Letters became emails marked as spam. I watched her from a distance, through social media, news articles, university updates. She was smart. Beautiful. Dating a wealthy man. I also found out. She called that other woman Mom. And me? Just Linda. When I heard she was getting married, I told myself I wouldn't go. I didn't want to ruin her special day. But deep down, I couldn't shake one thought. I never got to see her grow up, never saw her off to school, never watched her graduate. Was I really going to miss seeing her in a wedding dress, too? So I came. No flowers. No invitation. No one holding my hand. Just a mother, there to silently witness her daughter, perhaps for the last time. I remember so clearly. That cold winter night when Emily was 4. She had a dangerously high fever and started convulsing. I had no car. No money for a taxi. The streets were empty, the sky pitch black. I wrapped her in a thin blanket, carried her on my back, and ran, crying, nearly 5 miles to the nearest clinic. The doctor said, "It's a good thing you brought her in. If you'd waited another hour." I nearly collapsed from relief. To this day, I don't know where I found the strength to run like that. But I was her mother. That's why. I used to believe love alone was enough to raise a child. But life isn't that simple. There was a year when Emily was rejected from summer camp because I couldn't afford the full tuition. I went there in person, knelt down in front of the director, and pleaded, "Please. Give my daughter a summer to remember. I'll pay you back $1 at a time, if I have to." Eventually, they agreed. And I took on night shifts cleaning offices for 3 months just to pay off the debt. I still remember Emily's 10th birthday. We were so poor, I couldn't afford a real cake. I scraped together leftover flour, some expired milk, and one nearly rotten egg to bake something at home. As for candles, I reused the old ones from her birthday the year before. When I lit them, I apologized, "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I couldn't afford a pretty cake this year." But she hugged me tightly, grinning, "That's okay, Mommy. As long as you made it, it's the best cake ever." I cried. In that moment, I truly believed I was raising a kind, thoughtful little girl. I used to dream that one day, Emily would grow up, succeed, and come back to hug me tightly, saying, "I couldn't have done it without you, Mom." But life isn't a fairy tale. As Emily got older, the questions came, questions that broke my heart. "Mom, why don't we have a car like my friend's family? Why didn't you go to college? Why doesn't Dad live with us?" I would smile and give vague answers. I didn't want to hurt her. I didn't want her to hate her father, even though he never sent a single penny, never showed up when she was sick or scared, never once offered a word of encouragement. I remember one day, Emily came home from school and hid a tiny toy under her pillow. When I asked about it, she stammered, "A friend gave it to me. But I was scared you'd be mad if I took something from someone else." I didn't scold her. I just held her close and said, "Sweetheart, I'm not angry. I just want you to promise me this, always be honest, and always be kind." She nodded. The next day, she returned the toy to her friend. I remember the first day she got her period, she ran into the room in panic, crying. I sat down with her, held her close, wiped away her tears, showed her how to use a pad, and talked to her about womanhood, about our bodies, about self-respect. She looked at me like I was a hero. And I truly believed that the bond between us was unbreakable. That nothing could ever come between a mother and her child. But I was wrong. I don't even know when the distance began to grow. Maybe it was when she started going on vacations with her father, posting photos from places I could never afford to dream of. Maybe it was when she started introducing me to her friends not as Mom, but as Linda. Or maybe it was simply because I was too poor. And in this world, sometimes, being poor feels like a crime. I remember so clearly. The first time Emily talked back to me, she was 15, just back from spending 3 weeks of summer vacation at her father's house. She walked in wearing a designer dress, holding a brand new smartphone, the kind I would never even dare to dream of owning. She glanced around our tiny, worn-out kitchen, shook her head, and said, "Mom, why is our house so poor?" I froze. I had spent hours making her favorite dinner, roast chicken and mashed potatoes. But she didn't even sit down. She texted on her phone and said casually, "At Dad's place, we don't eat like this. They have a pizza oven and organic juice." I tried to stay calm. "Sweetheart, I know we don't have much. But everything in this kitchen, it's made from love. Every bite is made with love for you." She scoffed, then said the words that stabbed me right in the heart, "Love doesn't feed anyone, Mom." From that moment on, the distance between us grew, like a canyon I couldn't cross. She started getting picked up by her dad's car for school. She stopped coming home on weekends. Stopped replying to my texts. I messaged her dozens of times. Only to get short, cold replies, "I'm busy. Don't bother me. Linda, I told you already." And whenever she did come back, if at all, it was only to take more of her things. Each time, her old bedroom felt emptier. I quietly held onto the hoodie I gave her when she was little. And a pair of sneakers she wore in 6th grade. Those were the last pieces of her I had left, before Emily disappeared from my life completely. The breaking point came when she was 17. We had a huge argument. I had found out she'd lied, said she was at a study group, but had actually gone to her boyfriend's party. I didn't yell. I simply asked, "Do you understand how worried I was, Emily?" She glared at me and screamed, "Worried? You think you're worried? Do you know how embarrassing it is to tell my friends that my mom mops supermarket floors? You don't get it. You keep me around just because you're lonely, not because you care about me." It felt like someone had slapped me across the face. For the first time in my life, I saw pure contempt in my daughter's eyes. I didn't respond. I just nodded, walked to my room, and cried like a child. After that night, she moved in permanently with her father. No goodbye. No phone call. And from that day on, she never called me Mom again. Now here I stand, outside the church, trying to hold myself together in the crisp chill of an October afternoon. People walk by dressed in elegant clothes, laughing, chatting, holding wedding invitations printed with 2 names. Emily and Nathan. Her name sits proudly among white ribbons and flowers. And me, her birth mother, I'm nothing more than a silent shadow on the sidelines. I never intended to walk inside. All I wanted was to see her one last time in that wedding dress. To see if she looked happy. That was all. But then, I heard her voice. The woman who had taken everything from me, my ex-husband, my family, and my daughter. Emily, sweetheart, you look absolutely radiant. I'm so proud of you. 3. I froze. Mom. She called her mom. Without hesitation. Without the slightest flicker of doubt. As if no other woman had ever carried her through the rain to the ER. As if no one else had taught her how to tie her shoes, or stayed up all night rocking her to sleep when she had nightmares. I stepped back. The pain was suffocating. But then, my eyes caught sight of her, Emily. Standing in her white gown, bouquet in hand, adjusting her veil in front of the mirror. And I couldn't hold it in anymore. I pushed the door open. And stepped inside. Guests turned around, startled. Whispers began. I heard her father lean in and say something in Emily's ear. Her face darkened instantly. She turned. And saw me. Her eyes weren't filled with joy. Not even surprise. Just irritation. And a flash of anger. What are you doing here? Her voice was quiet, but ice cold. I struggled to speak. I just wanted to see you. That's all. I wasn't going to cause any trouble. I'm sorry if. If what? If you embarrassed me? She raised her voice. People nearby turned to look. Some shook their heads. I bit my lip, holding back tears. Sweetheart, I didn't come to take anything away. I just wanted to see you happy. I was happy, until you showed up, she snapped. Her voice trembled. From anger. Or maybe something else. Emily. Her father interrupted. Security, please escort her out. I looked at my daughter, the one I had once carried through fevers, the one I had starved myself for to buy her first dress, the one I had taught how to walk, step by step. Now she stood there, turning her back on me on her wedding day. I clenched my fists, choking on every word. And then I said, softly. I just wanted you to know. Even if you never forgive me, I will always be here. Even if I stand outside your life, I will always love you. That will never change. Emily stood still. For just a brief second, I saw something flicker in her eyes. A tiny tremor. A crack in the wall. But then, she turned away. Please escort her out. I nodded. No tears. Just a sad, quiet smile. I turned around and walked out of the church, leaving behind the sound of piano music, the clinking of champagne glasses, and the daughter who once meant the entire world to me. I didn't ruin the wedding. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I simply walked away. The same way I've lived for so many years, silently. As I stepped out, my legs trembled. My eyes burned. A cool autumn breeze blew through the trees, sending white flower petals drifting down across the church gate. And then, the wedding bells rang, loud, joyful, relentless. And in the middle of those bells, I could almost hear something else, my heart breaking. All over again. I didn't stay to watch the ceremony end. I didn't wait to see who would walk her into the next chapter of her life. I used to think it would be me. But some things you hoped for your whole life turn out to be nothing more than dreams, lost on a cold, rainy afternoon. I walked into a small coffee shop nearby. Ordered a black coffee. Sat by the window. And I watched the people slowly trickle out from the church. Watched as the world kept turning. I had hoped for a miracle. That when she saw me, childhood memories would come flooding back. That tears would fall. And she would run into my arms like she used to. But no. That moment never came. Or maybe. It only existed in my heart, not in hers anymore. In that moment, I didn't feel angry at her. Truly, I didn't. I just felt sorrow. Sorrow for all the forgotten hugs. For the sleepless nights sitting beside her bed with a fever. For every time I bit my tongue and swallowed my pride to keep a job, just to afford rent. Sorrow. For a life I gave completely to someone who now calls me that woman. I once believed in sacrifice without expectations. But one day, when you've lost everything, you realize, some wounds don't need anyone to touch them. They ache all on their own. Simply because they were forgotten. After that wedding, I stopped trying to reach out to Emily. I returned to my small hometown, and went back to my job cleaning at a local nursing home. Every day, I talk with the elderly, men and women forgotten by their own children and grandchildren. And in them, I see myself. I've come to understand, I am not alone. There are so many of us in this world. Forgotten by those we once held close, yet still remembering, every breath, every cry, every fragile dream of the child we once cradled in our arms. I no longer hope for miracles. But sometimes, in the quiet of the late afternoon, when golden sunlight pours gently through the window, I take out an old photograph. It's me holding Emily at 3 years old, her cheek pressed against mine, both of us laughing. And I smile. Softly. Without tears. Maybe. Love doesn't always have to be returned. Maybe being a mother means loving without expecting anything back. Maybe. Forgiveness isn't for others, maybe it's for yourself. So that you can keep on living. This story could be mine. Or it could belong to another mother somewhere, still silently sacrificing, yet never truly being called mom. If you saw a piece of yourself in these words, if your heart ached for something you've lost, leave a comment below. I read every single message. And if you'd like to hear more stories, the kind that stir your soul and stay with you long after, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That way, whenever a new story is told, you'll be the first to hear it. Because sometimes, just one story is enough to begin healing a broken heart.